Okay, the 8th commandment. The 8th commandment is, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. What does that even mean? Shall not bear false witness? That means you don't lie about your neighbor. It means, actually, Martin Luther says in his explanation of this commandment that we do not tell lies about our neighbor, betray or slander them, or destroy their reputations. Instead, what we are to do is to come to their defense, speak well of them, and interpret everything they do in the best possible light. Okay, so what is the spirit of the law? What is this really all about? It's about our words. How do we use our words, and how do they affect other people? You might remember the old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I don't even know if they say that anymore, because we've all concluded that is just a big lie. So we should probably stop saying it if we haven't already. Words hurt. They hurt a lot. And if I'm honest, I know that the words I have said against other people probably have hurt them more than anything else I've ever done. In fact, it's sometimes the words that I've said that are mean or judgmental of other people that wake me up at night because I feel bad about them years later, even though I should forgive myself because that other person has forgiven me. I also know that I remember the words other people have said to me that have hurt my feelings. I remember words people said to me as early as like 4th grade or in junior high. Words affect us. Okay, so let's take this in pieces. This commandment says, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. It doesn't say you shouldn't lie, period. Okay, there's a difference here. A difference between lying or fibbing. Let's say that your neighbor says, do you like my haircut? And you don't. Can you tell a little white lie about them? Actually, I think that's kind of for you to figure out, because you're not actually lying about them to hurt their reputation, but instead you're saying something that maybe you don't really feel, but it doesn't hurt them to say, yeah, your hair is fine, right? It's not about that. Not bearing false witness or not lying about your neighbor means you don't hurt them with your words. So you shouldn't lie or gossip or spread rumors about your neighbor. Have any of you ever seen a movie where there's that neighborhood house that everyone has mystery about? I'm sure you've seen it. I know I have. There's kind of a spooky house on the corner and some curmudgeony old guy living in it, and all of the kids in the neighborhood have stories to tell about him. I heard that he has someone buried in his backyard. I heard that this happened to his family. I heard that no one's ever come out of that house who's gone in. I bet you've seen a movie like that. Well, let me tell you, that's breaking the 8th commandment. All of those people are bearing false witness against their neighbor. They're telling all sorts of rumors, and they're not connecting with that person at all. Now, usually in these movies, we find out something like, oh, that person's family died a long time ago, and if other people had reached out, they would have noticed what a wonderful person this is, and there's this wonderful story of connection at the end of the movie. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't live in a neighborhood with a big scary house on the corner and all sorts of rumors going along about that person. But I still struggle with the 8th commandment. In fact, I would say that the 8th commandment probably is one of the hardest commandments for us to follow, because it is about our relationship with other people, and not just our neighbors. I mean, neighbor is so much bigger than the person who lives next door or down the block. A neighbor is everyone we might encounter: our friends, our teachers, our parents' friends, people we've never met, strangers and foreigners. In fact, Jesus makes our neighbors so huge, it includes everyone except ourselves. And so how are we going to treat those people? Well, we might not have that scary house on our corner, but sometimes we aren't the nicest to our actual neighbors. We might destroy their reputation. That was part of it, that explanation, right? Don't destroy their reputation. I have a friend who lives in a neighborhood right now where there are signs up. I have some pictures of them. We'll put them up. One of the signs says this property is under 24-hour video surveillance due to criminal activity. Smile for the cameras, the neighborhood watch group. And it points at another house. Well, that person in that house made their own sign. And that sign says, this guy needs a hobby. I'm curious, what kind of relationship do you think these neighbors have with each other? I don't think it's probably pretty good. I don't think using signs in order to hurt someone is probably the way to go, but maybe they should talk to each other. Maybe the signs are true. I don't know, but what I do know is that they're not going to be caring for each other, that their words are hurting each other. Okay. Now I want to talk about how this commandment maybe affects our actions on social media. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Pastor Joanna, how in the world does the Bible talk about social media? It doesn't really, other than the fact that we use words on social media, right? And in fact, I think this commandment has a lot to say to us about the things we share on Instagram or Snapchat or any other social media platform that you're on. Have you ever spread a rumor about someone on social media? Have you ever shared something that you weren't told to share or invited to share? Have you ever put on mean comments or sarcastic comments to someone in order to bring them down? Those are all ways that you are not following the 8th commandment, or someone might be not following the 8th commandment either. When you share something on social media about another person, it's important to ask the question, is this helping that person or hurting that person? Why am I doing it? Is it in order to build them up or to tear them down? And what God wants us to know is that when we share things with words or on social media, that we always should do it in order to build someone up. Okay. Part of this commandment tells us that we are supposed to come to the defense of someone else. So we need to stick up for them when someone else tears them down. I have an example of a time I didn't do this well. I was in 4th grade and I was good friends with Chrissy and Darcy. Well, Chrissy one day told me all sorts of things about how Darcy had been mean to her and told me we shouldn't play with her at recess anymore. And I listened to those stories. I didn't ask questions. I didn't go to Darcy to figure something else out. Instead, I just believed Chrissy. A week later, wouldn't you know, Chrissy said similar stories about me, and suddenly no one wanted to play with me. That was a big learning for me. I realized that I should have stood up for my friend, that I could have made a difference and helped her. And I hope that you will do the same. We are always invited to stand up and speak on behalf of someone else when other people are using their words to hurt them. I think you talk about this a fair amount in school. Okay, the final part of this commandment. You should interpret everything someone else does in the best possible light. Now, I'll be honest, that's hard. You ever been at the grocery store and someone's just crabby in line ahead of you or the cashier is, and you just think, what's wrong with this person? Or maybe you get an email that's kind of snarky or mean, and you think, oh, you might share it with someone else. Well, that's not interpreting what's going on in the best possible light. In fact, what this commandment invites us to do is to consider the fact that person might be having a hard day. That maybe we should check in on that person, that that person deserves the benefit of the doubt, that we should go the distance and ask important questions. After all, that's what this commandment is all about. It is using our words to connect with people instead of to fall apart or grow away from that. So, the 8th commandment, it's a hard one. It's a really hard one. In fact, I'm pretty convinced that it's one of the hardest ones for us to follow. But I give thanks that we have a God of forgiveness. If I'm honest, I struggle with the 8th commandment all the time. I don't always speak well of people, even though I try really hard. I sometimes judge other people, especially people on the news or in politics, or someone who thinks differently than me, instead of growing closer and building a relationship with them through my words. And so I hope that as you learn about the 8th commandment, you'll think about ways that you can build people up and help them grow their reputation instead of destroying it. And know that that's what we've been called by God to do for each other. Thanks for joining me. Bye.